In fact, joining us live on this broadcast right now is the victim of the Uphaar case, Neelam Krishnamurthy. Ma'am, धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. Your first reaction on this step being taken, our sources in Law Ministry is stating that they are ready to in fact look at all options necessary to make sure that the case can be reopened.
Well, this is definitely a very welcome decision. We really welcome the decision of the Law Ministry, and it gives us a ray of hope to get justice, because till yesterday I was totally shattered, and all my hopes of ever getting justice for my children has just shattered it all. So I think it's a very good decision. It gives a hope to all the victims at Avut, and we will really look forward to this, and we'll like to give the representation for the reopening of the case at the earliest, so that it sends out a strong message to the people in this country that the government is looking here and is ready to help you to ensure that you get justice. Because this has sent a very wrong message, not only in India, but also abroad. I am getting calls from my friends who are staying abroad, and they were all very shocked to listen to the verdict. So I think this is really being set right. And we welcome the decision of the Law Ministry, and we are really thankful to them for that.
Absolutely.
In
fact, my colleague Rhythm is also joining us live on.
Seen you in prison.
Yeah, and you know,
yes. Mr. Neelam Krishnamurthy, for the last 23 years, we have seen you in the corridors of the Supreme Court, the trial court, the Delhi High Court. Today, even as there is a ray of hope, Justice Sudha Mishra, when you were on that debate, has clearly stated in great terms that yes, the case needs to be reopened. We've spoken to several legal eagles, such as Mr. Siddharth Luthra. We've spoken to Mr. KTS Tulsi, who say there is a glimmer of hope, because we all know end of the road is a curative plea. Now that the legal community is speaking up, now that the Law Ministry has spoken up, do you think the case can be reopened?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Do you think the case can be reopened?
Well, definitely, if the Law Ministry has woken up and has come forward, because definitely the case can be reopened because there is ample evidence. And yesterday, when I was on the show with Justice Sudha Mishra, the reason she said this, the case needs to be reopened, I can make out, because in her own judgment, she had written that actually these people fall in the ambit of 304 Part 2. But it's only because of the prolonged trial that she said, okay, we'll put them in 304A and will not send them for a de novo trial. Because the fact that the judiciary now needs to look into it, that who was responsible for this prolonged trial, everything has to be looked into it. And hence this benefit cannot be given to the Ansals of prolonged trial, because this was managed and manipulated by the consul, Mr. Ram Jethmalani, time and again. The only time Mr. Ram Jethmalani did not ask for an adjournment was when the matter was pending in the Delhi High Court and the Ansal brothers were behind bars in 2008. The complete hearing of the appeal was over in exactly 26 days. And when the matter came into the Supreme Court, Mr. Jethmalani had sought adjournments in 2 years, 8 adjournments in 2 years,
yes.
And he continued to argue for 1 full year in front of Justice Sudha Mishra and Justice Thakur. He continued repeating one Qurban Hussain judgment about 7 to 8 times, and he would keep on reading it, and he was wasting the court's time, but for some reason he wasn't stopped. And subsequently, Mr. Salve argued only for 2 days, Mr. Tulsi argued only for 1 day, but Mr. Jethmalani took the maximum time. So this was nothing but a waste of judicial time. So we are glad this decision has been taken, and I'm sure justice will be done to the Uphaar victims.
And Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy, I beg your pardon, we've seen you, like I said, in the corridors of the court. Yesterday's curative being dismissed in chambers by the Supreme Court. We remember those days when you were fighting pillar to post. I just want to ask you that this is the last ray of hope, but even at that time, when no jail term was given to the Ansals, you kept saying we don't want compensation. So Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy had Richard just a short while ago said this to us. We've spoken to several other victims who are showing their pathos to us. Let's tell our viewers what's happening right now. On Republic TV, it was broken last night. Justice Gyan Sudha Mishra for the very first time says reopen the case. The judge who was a part of this case says reopen the case. The second thing now, a big indication coming in from our political editor, Law Ministry sources, Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy are saying the case can be reopened. But through these years, the fact that you said, I don't want compensation for the death of my 17-year-old daughter and 13-year-old son. All I want is accountability. This cannot be treated as a case of negligence. How did you go through those years, Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy? Because in the courtroom when we saw you, you never really lost hope.
Yes, because, you know, when I went to the court in 1997, I had a lot of hope in the judiciary. I mean, I was a law-abiding citizen of this country, and we thought the courts are here to, you know, protect us. So I went with a lot of hope. The trial court had upheld the conviction.
Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy, I'll just interrupt you for a minute. Let me also go across to Mr. Naveen Sahni. He's also been a victim in this case, a part of the Association of Uphaar victims in the case. Mr. Naveen Sahni, a ray of hope. The Law Ministry says, give us an official note. We shall try and see what can be done. How are you looking at this new development?
Well, definitely it's a welcome move. I think at least we have got hope that we will get some justice in the long run.
And Mr. Naveen Sahni, you know, we've seen you in the Supreme Court, in the High Court, along with Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy, Mr. R. Krishnamurthy. You fought a tough battle. You've lost your loved ones. What is it that you most want? Is it a jail term for the Ansals, the VIP real estate barons? Or is it right now the compensation, the paltry compensation that they were trying to give out?
We were never interested in compensation. We never went to the court for compensation. They must be punished.
Mr. Naveen Sahni, yes, and the question that we are raising, yesterday a judge on the bench, Justice Gyan Sudha Mishra, had said reopen the case. Today morning we spoke to Mr. Tulsi, and Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy also continues to be with us. One question to you. Now that the chorus is growing in the legal community, Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy, 23 years have gone. Do you think there is hope in this case?
Are you asking me, Rhythm?
Yes, Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy, I am, ma'am.
Rhythm, is this for me or for Mr. Sahni?
Ma'am, it's for you. It's for you. I'm asking the question to you.
If the Law Ministry says that they're willing to look into it, yeah, well, definitely if the Law Ministry says so, that they're willing to look into it, because I am very sure that there is ample evidence. And the very reason that the Supreme Court has upheld the conviction, it has been upheld by all the three courts, trial court, high court and the Supreme Court. The only reason is because we were not given a proper hearing at the time of the sentencing. Mr. Salve was not heard at all. The three-judge bench, when announcing the sentence, when it was referred to the three-judge bench, did not listen to Mr. Salve at all. They did not give him time. So once they listened to him, once they, the entire evidence has been appreciated, I'm sure justice will be done. Because we only were heard at the review, and we had very limited time in the review. And obviously, there very limited scope in the review. So that's the reason we are hopeful that we will get justice.
And I also want to ask Mr. Naveen Sahni here, ma'am. Mr. Naveen Sahni, this case, there was a time in 2019 where the judge, also Justice Waziri, slammed the authorities because a passport issuance issue was there and the Ansal brothers were given VIP treatment. Do you think in this case, this is what's happening? The common man does not get justice. 59 lives are lost, but it's the VVIP treatment to these VIP rich Ansals that's being handed out.
Yeah, definitely. When this even passport case is there, they just never got NOC from the court and just went on issuing passports. It is, in our country, it is always rich and powerful who gets the justice, not a common man.
All right, absolutely. And let me assure you, Mrs. Neelam Krishnamurthy and Mr. Naveen Sahni, Republic Media Network has taken this case on. We will campaign to say reopen the case. This is not a case in which the VIPs can get away like they have earlier. This is a campaign that we shall see through. Despite the other Lutyens media blacking this out, the fact is simple. When we, the common man, the common woman, have had issues, it's time the judiciary takes notice and these VIPs are punished. I thank you all for joining us on Republic TV. Viewers, we slip into a quick break, but we continue our campaign for justice in the Uphaar fire tragedy.